and actually selling their homes. So we could be left with quite a drastic inventory issue for quite some time, especially if these interest rates just continue to stay at a moderate level where they're at today. There's really less incentive for people to sell. So guys, today we need to talk about an article from RedFin talking about buyers and sellers and giving us a market update on how buyers can't buy and how sellers are waiting to sell. If you find this video helpful, please go ahead and drop a like, and of course, leave some comments down below and give me your feedback on what you think about this information. Well, let's go ahead and dive into it. So this first article from RedFin, new listings of homes for sale are down 25% from a year ago, marking the 8th straight month of double-digit declines. That's making it difficult for buyers to find homes, but giving sellers a competitive edge. So what this is telling us is that we've seen 8 months consecutively of declines for new homes for sale. The new listings of U.S. homes for sale dropped 25% from a year earlier, continuing an 8-month streak of double-digit declines. That's the biggest drop since the start of the pandemic, but of course there was a holiday weekend effect, as they note here in the article. People are reluctant to sell because they don't want to give up their low mortgage rate. It's hard to find another home to buy, and many Americans recently moved. Although rates are down from the November peaks, this week's average is 6.27%, and 85% of homeowners have a rate far below 6%. So if you think about 2020, when stimulus started to come into the economy to help during the pandemic, there was really cheap money available for people to borrow and buy real estate. Now, as a result of that, what we're seeing in the market today is that these last few years of low interest rates made it where 85% of homeowners are below 6%. So if you're a homeowner and your mortgage rate is below that 6% mark, you really don't have incentive to sell your home and move in a scurry, right? And also for people who want to buy real estate, even as rates start to come down, the limited inventory is a challenge right now, which they'll talk more about in this article. But really easy math would suggest that if 85% of homeowners currently have a rate less than 6%, what incentive and what motive is there to really sell your home? As long as interest rates remain this high, if you're going to get another mortgage on a new place, you're going to be paying a way higher interest rate. So this is why we're seeing a lot of issues with inventory rising. We're not really seeing a rise of inventory like we expected. And of course, you have to take that into consideration. The bright side for homeowners who are listing now is that desirable, well-priced homes are being snapped up in bidding wars in markets where demand outpaces supply. So in certain markets, especially some in Florida, Tennessee, other areas, you're seeing that there are a lot of bidding wars and multiple offer situations, and the demand is outpacing what's available for people to buy. So that's causing another stir in the market where it's leaning towards a seller's market and giving sellers a very big advantage. New listings fell from a year ago earlier in all 50 of the most populous U.S. metros, with the biggest declines in California. They dropped most in Sacramento and Oakland, minus 47% year over year apiece. San Francisco, minus 43.2%. San Jose, 42.9% under, and San Diego, 41.4% under. The scarcity of homes hitting the market, along with elevated mortgage rates, is holding back sales. Pending home sales dropped more than 30% in each of those metros, more than 19% nationwide decline. So pending home sales in each of those metros down 30%, but in the rest of the country, we're looking at a 19% nationwide decline. So most of these declines, the big bulk of them, the harder part of them, are happening over on the West Coast, especially in California. While pending sales are down, early stage home buying demand is kicking up, with mortgage applications up 8% from a week earlier. Of course, this is seasonally adjusted. And, that's a good indicator, guys, of where the market could be going, right? If buyer demand hasn't necessarily slowed down, but rather it's actually starting to tick up and increase, and with still limited supply, where does that leave us with home prices? Depending on the area you're in, especially an area like Florida where I'm located, that means that we're going to see home prices continue to go up. So buyers have to be very cautious. They're waiting for the market to crash But if it's not happening in these types of areas where the markets are hot, it seems unlikely it'll really happen at all. Angela Langone, a Redfin agent in San Jose, said there aren't enough listings to go around with multiple offers on many homes. Both new listings and pending sales are down more than 40% from a year ago in San Jose. Many buyers here aren't being held back by high mortgage rates. It's the lack of inventory that's really getting in their way. I have several clients who are serious about buying a home, and they are actively looking, but they cannot find anything right now, and they're being patient. They're waiting for more homes to trickle onto the market. So again, another situation where people might be ready to buy. The interest rates may not necessarily be keeping them away, especially as they've started to decline these last few months, but the lack of inventory will make it very difficult for people to be able to buy real estate. It's going to be very hard to get into this market when there's not really many homes available for you to choose from, and that leaves you having to fight over homes with other potential buyers. Buyers have more options in other parts of the country. In Nashville, Tennessee, for instance, new listings and pending sales were both down about 14% from a year earlier, but those are some of the smallest drops in the country. Inventory isn't a major problem here because the greater Nashville area is so sprawling and there are a lot of newly built homes on the market in the suburbs. And as it goes on to say here, builders went big in the outskirts of the city over the last few years. Now they're offering incentives to attract buyers to the point where individual sellers are having a hard time competing. For buyers willing to stray from the city center, there are plenty of homes for sale. And I think this is a key part too. Over in Florida where I'm at, there's a lot of builders and a lot of new developments coming around, especially in Venice and Northport and Port Charlotte. And seeing the uptick of builder activity is leading us to believe that builders are going to have the upper hand. Not only will they be able to supply inventory to the market, but they're also going to be able to offer incentives for people to want to buy from them rather than buying from that person that lives maybe, in the middle of Northport who owns their home and they're trying to sell it with an agent or on their own. There's a lot more incentive to go to new construction right now. They'll help with seller concessions, they'll cover closing costs, and they give you additional bonuses and incentives to financing and buying with them. So that's leaving a lot of smaller sellers in a peculiar situation where it's actually really hard to compete with these big institutions and these big buyers. And they go on to say here, 2 new pieces of economic data serve as tea leaves we can read to anticipate how mortgage rates will trend over the next few months. It's unlikely they'll skyrocket, but it's also unlikely it'll come down enough to motivate locked-in homeowners to sell. The March Consumer Price Index report and jobs report showed that inflation continued to cool and wage growth ticked down from the month before, but inflation is still higher than the Fed's target. So guys, even though interest rates may continue to rise, and even if they don't, right, like the odds of it skyrocketing are unlikely because inflation has started to come down. The Federal Reserve is seeing numbers that they want to see, and that's starting to lead them to lower and lesser increases. And we will get to a point, hopefully soon, where the Fed decides to pause the interest rate hikes, which could be a good indicator for where the market goes next. But it's also important to understand that even as rates may tick down, it's going to be still very, very hard for people who have low interest rates to find incentive in actually selling their homes. So we could be left with quite a drastic inventory issue for quite some time, especially if these interest rates just continue to stay at a moderate level where they're at today. There's really less incentive for people to sell. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens over these next few weeks and months, and especially over the next few years. So guys, give me your comments down below and let me know what you think about this. Do you think that the housing market is still due for some sort of correction? Have we already seen a big part of the correction, seeing that parts in California are down around 40%? Or is there still more pain ahead? Let me know down in the comments below. And of course, if you found this video helpful today, please go ahead and drop a like, as I look forward to continue to doing more updates and article breakdowns just like this. If you enjoy this type of content, I also have a free newsletter that you can subscribe to, and you can get up-to-date information just like this, where I break down articles and talk a little bit more about where the market is, especially in my local area. So again, guys, thank you so much for the love and support. Please drop a like, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Peace.